This video is intended for viewers aged 13 and up. If you are not 13 yet, please leave. Hey, Tony, how do I look? What are you talking about? Why are you asking me how you look? Well, I'm kind of going for this Falcon cosplay kind of look for all the digital Comic-Cons this year, you know? Don't you get it, man? I got the cool metal wings. I got the tiny little hand cannons on my legs that I can just grab and dual wield. You know it. And hey, my wings are shields. So like, since Captain America is gonna be Falcon, well, the other way around. Sorry. It kind of makes sense, you know. Dude, you're already a pop culture character. Can't you already go as yourself? What? No, that'd be boring. Why are you even cosplaying in the first place? Isn't it all digital this year? Well, yeah, I guess you're right. I just thought it would be fun. Fine. Don't let me get you down, man. Just do whatever you want, I guess. Yes! Then I'll continue to be Falcon for the rest of the week. Ha! You do you, buddy, I guess. Hello, everybody. My name is Kanohii Mineka, and welcome back to the Action Figure Review, where this week we're jumping back into the wide world of model kits. And if you haven't seen the last model kit review, then what are you doing? Because I mean, like, that's literally my most viewed video ever. I'm talking about the Evangelion Unit 1 review. Though that's probably more so because of it being an EVA video rather than it being a model kit video, but this week I felt like jumping back into the wide world of model kits with what is honestly one of my favorite model kits that I own. And especially since certain other model kits been making the rounds as of late, because it recently released, I believe, at least last month, if not 2 months ago, that essentially acts as a companion piece to this figure, which came out back in 2019. I am speaking, of course, about the Master Grade 1/100th scale Gundam Dynames. Now, if you don't know what this mobile suit is one of the many Gundams that was featured within the first season of the television series Gundam 00. Mobile Suit Gundam 00, if we're going to be really specific about it. But they released in the Master Grade scale class, or like the build class or whatever, the main mobile suit from 00, the Exia, at least from the first season, back in like, I think 2009-ish? It was after the show was over, I think. But they didn't wait as long as they did with, like, the perfect grade of the Exia. But then people felt kind of lukewarm about it, and then they released the other main mobile suits from Mobile Suit Gundam 00, and even a Mook suit, which that's honestly the one that angers me the most. Because why would you make a Mook suit before you make, like, a main mobile suit from the show? Like, geez, dude. Yeah? Because kind of like the most popular Gundam series in the West, Gundam Wing, this series is based around a team of Gundams. The Exia, the Dynames here, the Curios, which just came out in the Master Grade scale, and the Victory, which please, everyone's saying, oh yeah, give us the Exia 2.0, and I'm like, give us the Victory first, so we can at least have a full team, and then do an Exia 2.0. You know, but whatever. That's not the point of the video. The point of the video is to look at this amazing green boy. Before we start fully reviewing the figure, I want to give a quick disclaimer. This is a model kit, which means that you have to snap it together and snap it off the runners, put it together, so on and so forth. As such, I could have constructed it differently than with your figure. I personally did minimal panel lining. By minimal panel lining, I mean I don't think I've even finished panel lining it yet. I want to do more panel lining on this figure. And just did minimal construction work, which means just snipping it off the runners and putting it together. I know not every model kit user will do this, However, I'm here to review the base model, at least to my standards. And please understand this was my first master grade that I ever built. So it might have a couple of issues that me reviewing future master grades may not have, you know? But yeah, let's get into it. I can't say anything about the painting since there is none, but this thing is exquisitely sculpted, basically making up for the fact that there is no paint because, well, it's a model kit, you know? There's a nice amount of sculpting that goes into this design that expertly portrays the look of the Dynames from the TV show while giving it a slightly more realistic look, I guess. I mean, it's not exactly a Verka, but yeah, I'd say it's good enough to look like a Verka, or fit into your Verka collection, I guess. Starting off with the head sculpt, I think this was done exquisitely. Now, design-wise, I think it looks really nice. It's one of my favorite Gundam designs. I think this works because since the main mobile suit in the show was the Exia, with stuff like this, or the Kyrios, or the Victory, I believe that's what they're called. If they're not called that, correct me in the description below, please. I haven't fully watched 00, and I haven't watched the first episode in a while. They were able to do different things with each of them. Like, the Kyrios has like a wing on the back here, and I think out of all the unique designs, this one's my favorite because it has a nice, bulky, kind of squarish design, but like it doesn't go super overboard with it, And I think it's especially bolstered by the green panels on the side, And all of the green throughout it gives it a different color from a lot of the other Gundams that exist, The nice dark green, foresty green color scheme that is added on with the white, yellow, and red. However, I want to get into something that's really nice here while I can. With the head, since he is a sniper, which we'll get into later, they designed in the original design a nice head camera to allow it to do better sniping camera or whatever. And they replicated it with this mobile suit by essentially allowing you to move the V-fin, which is a nice yellow part, forward. It's kind of hard to manipulate, where essentially you're able to move this V-fin construction forward, and if you don't break it, let me reconstruct it. And yes, since this is a model kit, it can fall apart on you, but however, it is relatively easy to put back together. I mean, you can glue it if you would like. And essentially what you do is you essentially have this pushed down over the eyes, which I guess are cameras as well, to allow the head camera to be more exposed. That allows it to do better sniping, I guess. And I guess that's good for cool sniper poses, and it is a nice, accurate gimmick from the show, which I feel like should be a focus when you're trying to do master grade stuff. Moving down to the torso a little bit, yes, this is the Dynames, and I'm going to do the front and the back of the torso unlike usual, because this has some really cool stuff on the back as well. As you can see, there's this weird green bit, which is actually able to be flipped up, so that for two reasons. One, to expose the GN drive a bit more, which is this center bit, the green bit. All of the 00 Gundams have a GN drive, which basically allows them to function, which is why there's a green arc reactor looking thing in the middle. And you can also flip down this red bit to expose a pilot, which you can't really see, but you can see that gray bit hanging down. That's the cockpit. That's like a cockpit targeter or whatever for lock-on in there. And as per usual in the master grade, there's a tiny little sitting lock-on Stratos figurine who is the pilot of this mobile suit, which is a very nice inclusion right there. Thank you for the sneeze break. Yeah, moving on to the back of the design, you can see the GN drive put in here very well, and if you want, you can remove the GN drive. And from what I can tell, unlike the Exia, this is held in pretty dang well, because it's able to be connected to these 3 posts, which allows it to basically be stuck in there. And here we have the GN drive, which from what I can tell is pretty accurate. and there's this little clear bubble, which I believe is primarily there because you can fit in Bandai's LEDs system into the NEGN drive throughout the Master Grade 00 line. I have them, but I might want to use them on a different project, so I'm not putting them in here. And I don't think you really need to review the light up feature when you're reviewing a mobile suit like this. But I might do an update later on and be like, hey, this is how the light up feature works, and here are my opinions on it. But yeah, I don't think the quality of the LEDs that Bandai has should be held against this figure. Yeah. And then to put it back in, you basically just slide it back in, clip it in, and boom, it's right back in there. Instead of moving on to the arms, I'm moving to the butt, because there are these butt thrusters, yeah? And they're able to be posed, which we'll get to in posability. However, you can open them up, and the little thrusters will poke out, you know? Which is also just a really nice detail. And there's also weapon storage for the beam sabers, but we'll talk about that when we get to accessories, whatever. But yeah, I really like the amount of detail that even went into them. They didn't have to make it open like this, but they did because it's a master grade, and I really appreciate that level of detail, which made me get future master grades, such as the Alex, the 00, 7 Sword, and another mobile suit, which you may or may not see in a future unboxing video. Ooh. The arms, as per usual, are detailed very well. However, the big standout are the shields. The cool shields that he has, which are articulated and have a very nice amount of detail that I could just see being exemplified even further with more panel lining that I can do in the future. Like, there's so many opportunities to panel line on these kinds of figures. However, these panels are also removable, where you take this one off the peg, you know? You can take that off the peg. You can take the big shields off their pegs. And then these smaller shields, the smaller shields are clipped on. And what you're going to want to do when you clip them into different, and there are like clip holes all around the top of it, as you just saw. And what you basically want to do is get the top hooked on first, and then hook on the bottom, and boom, smaller arm shield. However, I moved that out of the way because I want to get into the ribbons. So, these mobile suits designs are covered in these like cool holographic cable bits, which you can see right here, which shine really nicely with a nice rainbow pattern. And from what I can tell, work a lot better than with the Exia. And what I really like about these is they don't impede on posability. They keep the look of the mobile suit without impeding on any of the functionality of the mobile suit, which is just amazing. And of course, there are more of these like holographic green things that, if you want, can be exemplified by adding stickers under them. I just forgot to do it when I was building it. And there are these gap things which are functionality for the accessories, which we'll get to. The legs have more of these ribbon details, as is to be expected from this design. And the crotch plate is really big, but whatever. And another nice, cool function about these legs, other than the fact that there are ribbons laid in here, and I really like how the foot design is, that's just personal, you can open up the knees to expose the knee rockets, which sadly were not colored on the runners to be orange like they're supposed to be, but once again, this is a model kit. You can paint it. If you own this kit and you're a customizer, you probably already have. But having the knee rocket detail in there in the first place is just greatly appreciated on literally anything. And there are more gimmicks, but I want to get to them in the articulation section of the video. And yeah, also, I forgot to mention, in the crotch skirts, you can also open them up and have little rocketing detail as well, which greatly appreciated, as per usual. So as you just saw, this figure has a great amount of detail, you know? It really does take the master grade price point and excels with it. It's one of the greatest master grades I own for that reason, you know? However, it's not just a masquerade because it's just this figure. This figure comes with a nice, hefty, decent amount of accessories, which we will get into right now. I typically start with the hands, but this time I'm going to start with one of the smaller things. He comes with a stand adapter for the Action Base line of stands, which is basically Bandai's Gunpla stand line. And it's your typical Master Grade stand adapter, no harm, no foul. Let's get into the more interesting thingies. The way hands are handled on the Master Grade toy line is actually quite different from your typical action figure line. Rather than swapping out the entire hands, what they have you do is swap out the frontal fingers, and the thumb is made as its own posable piece. They used to have fully articulated hands, however, they saw that for this size it was more convenient to just have the swappable hands, and it allowed them to hold accessories a lot easier. So starting off, we've got fists. We got fist pieces, which allow the mobile suit to be in nice fist poses. We have a pair of nice wide open fingers, a pair of gripping hands for the beam sabers, as well as a pair of trigger fingers for the many different guns that he has. But for now, I'm going to swap back real quick. And from there, what you're going to want to do is take one of your two beam effect parts. Sorry, Dynames, I'm going to have to put you in the background so that people can see. But as I was saying, you take your beam saber and you take one of your two beam effect parts, you plug it into the beam saber to make a really nice, really long sword that's almost as tall as he is. Like, geez, dude. And then from there, you plug it into the included hand. You plug it into the fingers. As you can see, there are gaps on either side, and you just slide the blade gripping finger in. You move the thumb out of the way for a second. You plug it back in. You do it, and then boom. He comes with a sword, baby, which I really like how they do beam sabers. It reminds me of how the Black Series does their lightsabers, but I'm pretty sure they were doing this well before the Black Series did that with their did removable blades with their lightsabers. And this just adds a nice little bit of cool, fun action-iness with the weaponry. So, yeah. But now that the Dynames is in this cool action pose, it's time to do nothing else but check out his many guns. Now we're going to start off with the smallest armaments that he has, which are these. These are holsters that can be placed on, and he comes with two, that can be placed on either leg, which you got to be sure you're putting it on the right one. And there's basically a clip hole here on the leg, and you just clip it in like so, and he has these holsters. However, they hold the ability to put him into what I call Falcon mode, which is a little joke that I made when I first got him, that because of the wings and because of these weapons, he looks like Falcon. So what you're able to do is open it up, take the gun out, which, as per usual with Gundam plastic model kits, these are some very nice, tiny little guns. What you're going to want to do is, as per usual, unpeg your hand bit, slide in the gun, and you want to make sure that the trigger finger is towards where the trigger is, you know, which this can take a little bit of finagling, but don't worry, it'll be cool in the end. Trust me. Just trust me. Just trust me, guys. Just trust me. Trust me. Trust me. I'm gonna pause and get the hand in real quick. So here we have it in the finger, and as with previously, you just move the thumb out of the way for a second, slide it in. I'm gonna move it back like so. Peg it in, and boom. Gun, whatever. And I call these the Falcon guns because of the wings in these small guns, it reminds me of when Falcon from the Marvel movies is like, you know? Ah, I'm stupid. Whatever. Whatever. And now, it's time for what you've all been waiting for. This is the sniper, so what would he be without his iconic sniper rifle? Oh yeah, baby. This is just a really nice weapon. It's sculpted amazingly. There's a lot of nice little details. Like, look at that little white thing right there. And this thing does have a little bit of articulation. This is on a ball joint as well as a pivot, as well as a slider, which allows it to move, which for a reason I'll tell you why later. The scope's able to move from side to side. These are able to move down so that he can do grounded sniper shots. And this is able to hinge down and go, baby. This is just a fun little weapon. However, he also has this little thing, which before we add this to our figure, I'm gonna wanna show you that this can be clipped here in the same way that the back small wings are clipped on. It can be a bit tricky because it is on a hinge, but you just plug it in the way that you usually do, and boom. Now you can have him in theory, store all of his weapons on him at once, which I think is just really cool, you know? This allows him to basically have everything that he needs whenever he needs it. However, he can also hold it like a cool weapon, which I'll show you how to do it right now. So what you're going to want to do is take off your typical trigger fingers. As per usual, slide them onto the handle. As per usual, making sure that you line up the trigger with the trigger finger. And then you're going to want to have this bit extended so that you can plug it into the hand as per usual. And I barely had to move the thumb all this time. And then you plug it in, as is accurate from the show, into the hole on the arm. Oh my goodness, that's just it's a small thing. However, since it's articulated, it barely impedes on posability. And then you can have him hold it in his other hand for some nice cool standing rifle shots. However, even the rifle has accessories. Sadly, these caps here don't extend. However, thankfully they include small accessories so that you can have him perched up on like a mountain or something with the weaponry in his hand and ready to shoot or whatever, and perched on the mountain. But this is just such a cool weapon, and I'm so happy because I really like the 00. I think I prefer the 00 team over the wing team purely because they all seem to have their own function. Like, the 00 team, they all look like they have different stuff. However, I don't really see how they could do different things. Like, you have two melee dudes in the dude with the swords and the dude with the scythe. What's the point of that? But with the 00 team, you have the Exia, which is the close-range sword dude. You have the Dynames, which is your sniper rifle dude, your super long-range reconnaissance dude. You have your spy, I guess, and like your air support in the Kyrios, who transforms into a jet. And then you have your heavy weapons guy with the fourth one, Victor, which I believe is the Victory. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I don't know, this team just seems so well balanced, and then they all look similar while still having their own motifs, which I just think is so cool. And that's why I kind of prefer the looks of the 00 team to the wing team, I guess. The wing terrorists. I prefer these terrorists over the wing terrorists. However, as is typical with this line, you get a nice 1/100th scale unpainted lock-on Stratos, which is a nice inclusion for display, you know, but like, whatever. Like, oh my god. However, I don't think I'd be praising this figure as much if it wasn't for the amount of articulation that this one figure holds, which is great for sniper rifling poses. Starting off with the head, he is on a ball joint at the top, as well as a hinge here, as well as a hinge at the neck, which allows him to look up all the way that far, which is great, especially for lying down and doing snipering poses. And he's able to look down just with that far. However, there's another hinge that allows for slightly more natural poses that allows him to look all the way down like that, looking into himself, which is really nicely done. Ignoring the hinges here, he has a nice butterfly joint in the shoulder, which allows him to go forward and backwards as such, as well as multiple joints in the arm that allows him to that work in conjunction that allow him to move his arm all the way up like so. However, due to the way it moves like this, it feels a lot more natural than is typically seen. And you see he's able to move his arm all the way up like that. That's so cool! Moving everything back into place, the shoulder pad has its own articulation. This wing is able to swivel, has a hinge here and a hinge here, and then these back panels are able to hinge out, and the thing they're on is able to swivel forward and backward, which allows him to snipe through the shield. You know? Which I think is really cool. From there, the articulation is relatively typical with a bicep swivel, which is nice and tight. A nice double-jointed elbow that's able to move like so. And there's a hinge at the top of the arm that allows it to move even further in, which isn't even really necessary, but it's just so cool. And then both hands have the same articulation where they're able to hinge upward and downward like so. However, they're able to hinge inward and outward as well, which is not something you see very typically. They're usually only able to hinge in one direction. And finally, the thumb is on a nice tiny ball joint, which allows it to move however you need it to for whatever hand you're using. The body is hinged in a few different places, which allows it to arc back mostly, which can be kind of hard to see when everything's in the way, but it's able to arc back nice and far. He isn't able to arc forward too far, however, he does have another hinge at the waist, which is able to work wonders for it. However, due to the frame that he's using, which looks to be the frame that all of these new 00 Master Grades will be using, he has a nice shifting hip, which, if you get it to work properly, extends essentially the legs, which it's a bit tight right now. It extends the legs like so, allowing him to look down even further, which is really cool. The waist bits are on hinges as well as ball joints, which allows them to move around as much as you need. And these back bits are on a hinge as well as another like a pin and a hinge, which allows them to move out of the way as much as your legs desire. For this, I'm going to have the legs extended out. You're able to kick forward that far, kick back less so, but that's purely because of the limiting factor of the butt thrusters, and you're able to move out for a full splits. Full Van Damme, as some people call it. I don't get the reference. Yeah. The knees are on a double-jointed hinge, which, as you move it, starts to shift armor slightly, which I love bits like that in Master Grades. It's even more evident in other Master Grades, but yeah, I just love how this mobile suit looks. And he's able to do a nice double-jointed kick, which would be able to kick his butt. However, it is limited by the butt, obviously, because it's so big. All of this excellent articulation allows him to get some amazing sniper rifle poses, which is something you can't really say with a lot of action figures because they don't have enough articulation to really work snipers in the way best suited for snipers. But this figure was able to do it, and this figure is the frame that is going to be used for all of the other 00 kits that they're going to be doing, at least 3 of them. And oh my goodness, Bandai, thanks for doing this one first so that you could just get as much articulation as you can and then tweak it a bit for the other 2. Like, oh my gosh, I can't tell you how much I love this figure. And apart from that, he is also a nice, large figure. I don't have my ruler on me right now still, sadly. I'll find it eventually. But from what I can tell, he is about 7.5 to 8 inches tall, which is just an amazing size, especially for $50 if you look at other action figures. And to compare him to other figures, here we have the Studio Series 38 Bumblebee Movie Optimus Prime. Here we have the Marvel Legends Incredible Hulk, the Gundam Universe Arc-78 2. Here he's next to the Bionicle Generation 2 Umarak the Hunter, which, if you're a Bionicle fan and you're looking for some sort of new buildable action figure hobby, get into Gunpla. My previous review, the Lightning Collection Beast Morphers Red Ranger, the Amazing Yamaguchi Bleeding Edge Iron Man, and finally another Master Grade buddy, the Master Grade Gundam Alex. What can I say about this model kit that hasn't already been said? This is just a stellar kit that, honestly, I don't think anyone should pass up. If you don't already have this figure as a Gundam plastic model kit, buyer, collector, whatever, why aren't you? Go buy it. It's the typical Master Grade price, which is $50, which for some might seem a little bit pricey, but for the size, the amount of stuff, the amount of articulation that you get in this one figure, $50 is well worth it. So even if you're new to the hobby, or if this is like your 100th Master Grade, pick it up. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe, do all the funny YouTube stuff so that I can do more of these videos eventually. But yeah, I'll see you all next time, and I gotta go deal with this. Give me a sec. Wheeljack, what do you want? You know how busy I am reviewing action figures and building action figures and buying action figures. And you know how busy I am. Yes, you know this interdimensional anomaly device thingy that you asked me to build? I didn't ask you to build it. You took my money and built it yourself. Yes, well, about that. It's turning up results. Wait. What? What are you talking about? This morning, the machine detected a huge spike in interdimensional energy. Interdimensional? I thought you were making this thing as a joke. No, it was for the sake of science. And never mind that. To simplify it, there's someone hopping through dimensions. Master, sir. What is it? I have very important news for you. If it was that important, then you would have spit it out already. I am sorry, sir. Please don't kill me. I'm about to. The news better be important, for if it isn't, your life will be snuffed out. Well, the Unicron project is complete. You can now jump between universes. Oh, really? Well, in that case, prepare it for me now, for I shall become the most powerful being in the multiverse. Yes, my lord.